friends, welcome to the Guitar Show. We're gonna have a blast today. This is what we're going over today, is creating catchy hooks for songs with chord noodling. Creating catchy hooks for songs with chord noodling. So I'll describe this to you in just a moment, but essentially what we're doing is, what we mean by guitar hooks is this right here, what we just did, which is Dust in the Wind, or any sort of guitar hook where there is a chord happening and some sort of melody. Now, by the way, this is like all the time almost, right? There's some sort of melody happening, whether it's Layla or it's Crazy Train or whatever. There's some sort of hook that's happening. That's what we mean by a hook, because it's hooking your ear, it's catching your ear, okay? Guitar or chord noodling, what we mean by that is this. If I play a chord, and then let's say I embellish the chord. So I take a finger off, I put a finger on that's different, in a different location. It's like I'm changing chords, but I'm only changing a note, or maybe two or three in the chord. It's usually the same note that's being moved around. And by doing this, what we can do is create a thread to tie some chords together. And when we do this, it creates super, super catchy hooks. So the ones that you love the best are what I'm gonna show you. They're based off of this idea. And so I came up with this name of chord noodling just because I didn't know what to call it. It's what I do. I play these chords and then I kind of noodle around with notes. And what we mean by noodle is just kind of experiment, come up with, like if you're sculpting or whittling, right? Probably not a very technical name, whittle. It's like, just means that we're working with something, okay? And so what I'm gonna do today and tomorrow is show you first in the key of C today and in the key of G tomorrow. Now we could do this in any key, but C and G are our easiest keys to play in. That's why they're the most popular keys. And with a capo, once we know how to use a capo, move that up and down the fretboard, then we literally can do this in any key, it doesn't matter, major or minor. So we're not stuck to major or minor, we could do both. We can do this with strumming, we can do this with fingerpicking. This concept can be used for anything. Essentially what we're doing is we're soloing in a very small way with chords. Remember that when we're talking about a tonal center is one single note and one single chord that all the other notes and all the other chords revolve around. Your ear would know it if this wasn't there, but it may not be able to identify it right now. I say this all the time about my son doesn't know what gravity is yet. But tomorrow, if gravity got turned off on planet Earth, he would all of a sudden be very aware of what gravity is because of what he's not experiencing now, floating in the air, what have you. So similarly here, this is, once I show this to you, it's going to be more familiar to you. Your ear is very aware of this, but you may not have the labels and know how to come up with this. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about for the next 2 days. I have a PDF for you. So very quickly, what I want you to do is, it looks like this. Thank you, Mike. It looks like this, very similar, in fact. And it's got it's got C, A, G, E, and D there. We've got 5 keys for you, but we could do this for any key. But I just did those few keys there. This is available for you to download for free. You don't have to sign up for anything. You'll find it as one of the links below, as well as access to the Unstoppable Guitar System Standard. Friends, we've had tens of thousands of folks get into this, and everything that I teach is based upon this. So if you're serious about playing guitar, get in there, and I give it to you for free. So you've got really nothing to lose. It's there for you, and it will help you with everything that I teach because it's the basis of everything that I teach. Cool? All right. If you haven't already, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. If you've done that already, share it with a friend if you would. And subscribe, hit that notification bell. Cool? All right, thank you so much. All right, so here we go. So what I played for you in the beginning there is Dust in the Wind. You've heard that classic song by Kansas. Now, funny enough, this bit here started off as an exercise. As I understand how the story goes, the writer of this song would sit in the morning and play this exercise at the breakfast table, and his wife said, "You ought to make that a song." And he says, "It's just an exercise." As we do, as we should do, listen to our wives because they're pretty smart. He did that, and it became this smash song because it's a very, very cool hook. So he was doing it more to exercise the fingers, to exercise his brain, just like 365, right? We have lots of exercises like there, just to exercise your fingers and exercise your brain. Well, what happens a lot of times is because there is a pattern, and life is made up of patterns, then when we have a pattern, and music is all about that, motifs, musical ideas, when they have patterns, our ear hears that. Our senses are not attracted to cacophony or craziness. Our minds, our senses are drawn to certain color palettes that work together, certain musical things that work together. So, for instance, I say it all the time, if the background here was a war zone, and instead of a really cool little set that looks like we're in a studio, it would be counter to what I'm teaching here. So all of this works together, and music does the same thing. So when we're talking about a tonal center, right, we're talking about 99.9% of all the music that you hear. 99.999% of all music has a tonal center. The other very small percentage is music that sounds not very good, and that's why it's not the hit of the summer. Songs that have a tonal center do. And that is where the hits of the summer come from. If you don't understand those basic bits, that's what the standard's for you, UGS standard, okay? But suffice to say, when we have a tonal center, which is 99.9% of the time, we have a one chord, we have a one note, and all the other chords, all the other melodies revolve around that. So if we're in the key of C, C major, and we know how to construct the major scale like I teach you inside of UGS standard, then we have this sound. And we can even have our chords that match this. Major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7, and back to our 1 again. The notes in the key of C major are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then back to C. On the piano, it's all the white keys. Pentatonically, this is where the name the black keys comes from as well, is the black keys on the piano are the pentatonic, where if you just play them, you're playing pentatonically. We can do this with just the white keys as well. But when we play just all the white keys, all the naturals, no sharps or flats, we're literally getting C major. And if we were to play those chords, as I've shown you here just now, or just the notes that are in the scale, those are our available notes. So all of these chords played together, or the C major scale, are only comprised of 7 notes. We just have lots of repetition there. So with that being said, I want to show you a little something, and this is in the PDF that I'm giving you guys today for free. So check this out. I have a C chord here. Looks normal, just like a regular C chord. Here's my 3rd finger, 2nd finger, 1st finger, and then my 2 open notes right here in blue, okay? Now, these notes on the top that are in red are notes that are within the scale, but they're not notes that are within the chord. But they are notes that I'm going to use to embellish the melody here. So for instance, just now when I was playing Dust in the Wind, I was playing a C chord to start off, which is right here. And the melody line was going from here to here to here to here. And then I play an A minor chord, and the melody line just moves through this one string. And I'm going to show you that in real time here. Now, you can do this with strumming, you can do this with finger picking, you can do this further up the neck. You don't have to be capoed, doesn't have to be done in the open position, but it's a great place for us to start and to understand the concept. I always suggest you make things very, very simple at first because it's a new thing, and inevitably, whenever we have a new thing that we're learning, there's a learning curve to it, and you're going to be a little bit confused. So might as well start off with something very simple and then gravitate or graduate to something more complex later on. So chord noodling is essentially this. I play a chord, C chord in this case here. If you don't have the basics of a C chord down, then it's very difficult to start talking about the other stuff. So I'm assuming that you know how to play a C chord. If you don't, then you can just come back to this or listen up and then get the C chord down later on. So if I wanted to take a chord progression like this, which is a very cool chord progression, classic, all the rest, right? But now let's change it up a little bit. Let me add some little bit of chord noodling just to create a thread or a common motif or musical idea that follows all through the chords and ties them together, okay? So I didn't do any sort of, different fingering here. I would just held the stock chord and strummed, which sounded nice enough, but let's add a little fun here. So if I go, and really the only thing I was doing was playing the same chord progression, but I was embellishing the note on the B string here. How much thought did I put into this? Hardly any at all. The only thing, as I said, was I know I'm in the key of C, and I know that there is a C in the key of C, and I know that there's a B in the key of C. I'm sorry, a D. And I know there's a B, so I have B, C, D. I'm no sharps and flats. So I know that these notes are permissible. I could have chosen any notes. I could have chosen notes on the first string. But I'm not really thinking about it too much, and neither should you. This is not like some, get out your calculator and get out the abacus. Let's figure out what notes we can use. I want you to think like you're a child with finger paints, and you're like, I like that. That's a pretty color. That's all. Anything more than that, you're going to really start... You're going to start getting in the wrong space. You're getting in the head space when you should be in the heart space of creation, right? Of like, I like that, that moves me, as opposed to, well, that's technically not correct, right? Get that guy out of here. We don't want him. We want the guy who's like, God, that just sounds great. That feels beautiful. That's what we want. So get in that head space or heart space, however you want to look at it. So I could do this on the high E string, Maybe I'll choose to go from the E to the F. Let's see if I can come up with something there. Let me go, So I'm literally just making that up. Now we could do this with the higher strings, which is what I suggest a lot of times, or we could do it with the lower strings. So I could do something like, there's a piece that I wrote that's literally just based all off this, but using finger picking. So that's using the same idea of chord noodling, but I'm doing some finger picking as well. So for instance, what I was doing is I was holding that C chord and I was hammering from an open D to an E, which is in the chord. So what I did there, right, is I took a C chord and then I took an A minor 7 chord. I wanted to play both those chords, but I had a little thread that went through them, almost like a color that went through the two, and it tied them together. So we got this. That's the motif, that's the musical idea that your ear latched onto right away, and then I went to another chord and it had that to continue on to bring these two chords together. And so once you have established that a few times, we can change it and your ears is welcoming to that. It has enough of that thread to go through there, you could continue it, or in this case here, it's not convenient to my fingers, so I didn't do it. I could do it with this G, but the F, you know, it's not going to be convenient. It's just not going to be convenient. You know? So, the idea is this. You can do it with finger picking, you can do it with strumming. Most people really confuse this, or they complicate it, I should say. And so, we're going to do a little exercise here together. Okay, so we don't complicate this. It doesn't have to be complicated. The thing that I did here, yeah, it's a little bit more complicated, but it doesn't have to sound like that. The Dust in the Wind, very simple. Finger picking part may take you a little bit to get down. But even if we weren't doing the finger picking part, and like I say, it's really good to isolate these inventory pieces, if you will. So if you are not very good at finger picking and you're going to do this chord noodling thing, you may associate your dissatisfaction and your frustration with chord noodling, when in fact you can chord noodle all day long. It's that your finger picking isn't down, okay? Or maybe you can't chord something correctly, but you get the concept of chord noodling. Very important that you guys grab the reins of your own life, your own musical life, and your own life, the way that you think, the stuff that's coming in, all the rest, so that you can control it. And when it comes to playing guitar, it's very important that you isolate this stuff so that you're not thinking that you are terrible at something that you're not terrible at. We all need to grow, but good to isolate that stuff. Very, very important. Okay, so let's start off simply. I think most of us can strum, whether it's with our thumb or with a pick. I suggest using a pick. That's why they're out there, is to bring some volume. And so, otherwise you got this sound as opposed to a nice, bright, loud sound, right? It's gonna cut through the mix. So, what I want you to do is this. Grab a C chord. Yes, right now, grab a C chord, okay? And we're going to do one of the easiest ones here. And we're just going to go back and forth between the C and the A minor, two very simple chords. Remember, for the C to A minor, there's only one finger that needs to move. Fingers 1 and 2 can stay where they're at. Here's a C chord, here's an A minor chord. It's very simple. You're just going back and forth between the two like that, okay? Now, the other thing we're going to do is we're going to noodle finger 1 here, which is the first fret of the second string. We're going to noodle that, okay? And the only thing we're going to do is this. So we're going to go. That's our other variation, where it's either on or it's off. That's it. Now we can come up with any sort of little melody that we want to do here, since it's only 2 notes. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go. I want you to do that with me, okay? You're just holding the C chord and you're lifting that first finger up and then putting it down, okay? Strum however you want, but try to do it in time with me here. Ready? 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing but with an A minor. Remember, when we're going through from a C to an A minor, the only thing that we need to do is move our 3rd finger and put it where it belongs. We don't have to lift up all of our fingers and make it much harder for ourselves. Just keep inventory of the one thing that you need to do, which is move that 1 finger. So going from a C chord to an A minor, that's what you got. And we got this little noodle finger here. It's the same one that we had with the C chord. That guy right there, okay? So now, let's do this. 2, 3, 4. What this does is it creates movement, and there's a pattern there that your ear automatically picks up on, okay? We always psychologically want order. We want order, we want patterns, we want predictability, okay? And when we have a pattern like this that appears, our ear latches onto it. It gets hooked by it, hence the catchy hooks, right? So if we put these 2 together, we might get something like this. Now that sounds way better, in my opinion, than this. Of course, it's subjective. Music is art, art is subjective, so you might like it, you might prefer it without that. But right now we're talking about chord noodling. To me, it makes it more interesting. I'm listening more intently, like, where is this going? Where are they taking me musically? Just like a good movie that starts off with a good intro scene, you're like, yeah, I'm in. Or the trailer's so epic. You ever been, right? You're at the movie theater and the massive trailer and you're like, oh, you look at your, you know, your significant other and you go, oh yeah, I approve, you know. Good, they've got your approval. Same thing here when you have a good intro to a song, a good hook in the beginning, it's gonna do that same thing, okay? Now, we could do this on the first string, we could do it on the second string. Does not matter, it could be 2 notes, it could be 3 notes. You could decide to do it one time, like, or you could go many times. And this is the first one I suggest for you because it's the easiest. Then, later on, after you've done this, more is not better, so don't get tempted by that. But if you want to add some variation, you could do something with your pinky up here. I improvised on chord G, and F because I wasn't holding it out for a whole measure. Or not for 2 measures, you know? So I didn't have the full time to do the same noodling that I was doing here. Plus, I didn't really need to. I just did it for 3 chords. So why not change it up there? Or at least 2 chords I did it for. Why not change it up at the end there just to create a little something different, okay? And again, we can do this on the first string as well. 2 notes, 3 notes, doesn't matter. All right, that's the basics of chord noodling in the key of C. Right? Tomorrow we're going to talk about doing this in the key of G, and we won't go any further than that. If you really are interested in this subject, then just stick around with us tomorrow and the questions that I'm going to answer for you guys today. I have videos for this on YouTube if you were to search chord noodling, YourGuitarSage chord noodling, but this, what I'm showing you today, is definitely going to be in more detail. For those of you that are in UGS Pro, and if you are, please let folks know. Say UGS Pro if you're in Pro. Because if you are, then you know what I'm talking about. There's a whole section on this where I go down and I say, okay, let's talk about the A minor chord. Let's talk about the C chord. Let's talk about the G chord. What can we get out of that? And the reason that this works, folks, remember, is that the notes in a certain key are the notes in a certain key because they play well together. Just like a swatch, a color swatch. When you go to Home Depot or wherever, Sherwin-Williams, and you're getting ready to paint your house, and you'll pick up a swatch, and there's like 5 different colors on it, and you're like, okay, why those 5 different colors? Because there's some color theory that goes along with that as to why there's certain hues and what have you that are the same there. For the same reason that if you go to a Mexican restaurant and you have salsa, and you're gonna have things that bite, things that like onion and things like pepper and things like jalapeno pepper or whatever. Those things complement each other, right? There are certain hues that complement each other. So the same thing when we're talking about music, when we're in a particular key, there are certain hues, notes, certain chords that they just all work together, and that's why it is a particular key. Okay, good. Man, look at all those in Pro. Beautiful, love it. Cowboy Preacher, Scott, Paul, beautiful, love it, love it, love it. Fantastic. So happy about that. Yay. All right, so let's get to some questions. For those of you where this stuff is over your head, it doesn't need to be over your head, my friends. It absolutely does not need to be, because usually with these broadcasts, I try not to go outside of that realm. I try to keep it simple for you guys so that you can, I mean, you get into Pro and we're going to get complex, okay? Nice and slow, okay? May Seek is saying this is pre-recorded, laugh out loud. Yeah, that's why you were able to put something in the chat, because this is pre-recorded, and I knew that you were going to put that in the chat. So I, through the magic of television, a week ago when we recorded this, I predicted that you would say that, and then I said this is pre-recorded, laugh out loud. So you are right, sir, pre-recorded. All right, I'm joking, you're not right. This is live, we're really live right now. Okay, so let's get into it. What questions do you guys have regarding this? It doesn't have to be just this. It could be anything that we're looking at here. So mixing pentatonic scales, someone's saying. Let's do this. I'll address that, but I'd like to stick to this as much as possible for right now. But in regards to mixing pentatonic scales, there is no, mixing of pentatonic scales. I would challenge you, as I love to do, I would challenge you to say, how good are you at one pentatonic scale? My guess would be not. So why are you trying to mix them? You're just complicating things. You've got to learn how to do things simply. This is for everybody. This is for me. It's not just for Anubhav. It's for everybody. We got to keep things simple. If you don't learn the basics, I heard somebody saying this the other day, my sentiments exactly. They were talking about B.B. King. B.B. King is not a complex player. He played the same 5 notes in a million different combinations. He just played the same 5 notes. Sass meter, red zone. It's true. So the same thing with you. You really want to concentrate on getting good at one particular thing, and then later on you can get into other things. But really, when it comes to mixing, what you mean mixing pentatonic scales, I would need to know more about what you're actually saying there. Do you mean mixing different keys? Because for the most part, people don't do that. You are in a particular key and that's it. If you're talking about different forms, yeah, sure, use all the different forms, but it's the same notes all the time. You're just playing on different parts of the neck. Make sense? How well does chord noodling work with bar chords? Gregory, it works as well as how many fingers you have available, which is why, for those that say using a capo as a crutch, what I always say to that, my rebuttal to that is, you're talking out your ass. No, I don't say that. I say, you don't know what you're talking about because, or you're not going in a few layers deeper, because using the capo allows you to free up fingers. Those are the fingers that you're going to use to embellish melodies. So if it means so much to someone that their fingers are so tied up that they can't play melodies and create ornaments and embellishes to chords and chord noodling, then by all means do that. Tie up your fingers and don't use this. When you're talking about a bar chord, what fingers do you have left? If I wanted to embellish this G major bar chord, I couldn't because all my fingers are tied up. If I wanted to, I could change the chord. Now I'm playing a 7th chord, now I'm playing a 13th chord, and I'm embellishing it a little bit, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of doing the same thing that we're talking about here, but since my other fingers are tied up, I can't really create that thread going through it like I could if the chord was in its open position, which is why I'm teaching you the key of C today and the key of G tomorrow, because that, with your capo, you'll be able to do this all over the neck. Can you do it with bar chords? Yeah, you can, but you just don't have the same liberty. I've got to give a few shout outs here to some folks who have donated here. Please, friends, let me do this very quickly. So, Donald Lee, thank you so much. And I just saw 2 others come through. Super kind, friends. I got to name them. That's what we do. And Anthony, great lessons. Thank you so much. You are welcome, buddy. And Psycho Out of Bob, it's same thing. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, Hal is saying, yeah, capos rock. It is the best of crutches, right? And it's more of a tool. A capo is as much of a crutch to a musician as a hammer is to a carpenter. So a carpenter who drives nails with his fist, you could do that technically if you had a strong enough fist. It's just not very sustainable, and why are we doing that, right? So try not to get in that mentality with the capo. I know there's probably one of you that are watching that are thinking that. The rest of us understand that it's a tool that we use. There's a difference between a crutch and a tool. Thank you. Beautiful. That's exactly what I meant. Okay, can you show us similar noodling ideas up the neck? Clark, I could, but why are we doing that? Or like, do you have this down, Pat, Clark? Because if you don't, you're just confusing things. Now, with that being said, I plan on the PDF that I'm giving you guys today, which you can find in the link below. Okay? I think it may be the first link below. If you grab that, you're going to have the ones in the open position, not the ones further up the neck. The reason being is you're not going to memorize all that, are you? Because let me ask you this, for those that want to do this further up the neck, do you have this mastered already? If you don't, again, my job is to keep you in fun land and to keep you moving forward. And if you keep on trying to jump a step, 10 steps ahead, you're always going to be confused because you're just thinking so much in the future instead of thinking about the only thing that you can affect right now, which is now. And if you don't have this part down, that's the part you should be focused on, okay? I'm trying to help you. Yeah, we could talk about that all day long, but now when we get up here, why wouldn't you just memorize the scale forms that I give you? Because I have all of those going up the neck. What I'm trying to do is give you a nugget that you literally could take home today and start doing this and create wicked cool hooks for rock and roll, pop, doesn't matter, whatever genre you want. But otherwise, you're just memorizing scales up the fretboard, and now you need to memorize all the chord forms up the fretboard in all the different keys up the fretboard. Now you're talking about a dictionary or an encyclopedia that you need to memorize, as opposed to a few key phrases that you're going to go to all the time. Right? When you go to a new country, there's certain phrases you don't learn. You don't learn, I don't know, something crazy that you would never ask, like, I'm really looking for this type of suede on my couch. It's not going to be the first phrase that you learn when learning Mandarin. You're going to learn things like, thank you, please, hello, where's the bathroom? Do you take credit card? Like those things, because you're going to use those like nonstop. Same thing with this here. These chord noodling bits I'm showing you now are those phrases that you're going to use all the time. Don't worry about if learning the phrase, do I need to I need to reupholster my couch. Can you help me? Because you're probably not going to use that in Mandarin. But you will use thank you, please, where's the bathroom, that sort of thing. Do that first, okay? Otherwise, just learn the scale forms going up the fretboard as I teach inside of UGS Pro, for sure, okay? Do we stay away from the C7 while noodling in the C major chord? That's a great question, Steve. So, and TBA just added a little something here. When we're talking about C major, we're talking about C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. But if we extended those chords to the seventh chord family, then we have a major 7. Number 1 is a major 7, a minor 7, or the 2 is a minor 7, the 3 is a minor 7, the 4 is a major 7, the 5 is a dominant 7th, which is what we call our 7th chord, and 6 is a minor 7, 7 is a half diminished 7. Confused yet? So the question was, do we stay away from the C7 while noodling in C major? Well, kind of, because if you think about it, that's a B flat. And so the B flat is really not in the key of C. Now, if it's a song, if you're playing blues, then you could do that. That sort of thing, right? So yes, in that case, the chord would have to be present, or something about that chordal structure or the melody would need to be tipping its hat towards, hey, play a 7th there. Because normally, in the key of C major, if you were going to play the 7th, it would be the major 7, not the flatted 7. I know we're losing people here by those comments, so we're going to pull it back a little bit, because I know folks are already going, my head's exploding. We don't want to do that, so let's just keep it simple. But to answer your question, Steve, yeah, technically we don't really want to do that, because it just doesn't fit into the key of C the way the other notes naturally appear. It's not to say we couldn't use it. Kevin Ryan, thank you for the donation, my friend. Super kind. Okay. And there's lots of songs that do this. Tomorrow you're going to see one in the key of G, a song that you guys know really well. But there's lots of songs that do this, whether it's the guitar doing it or it's some sort of melodic something that's happening with another instrument, and you're combining the two, okay, right? For Larry, if Larry Marr's watching, this one's for you, Larry. And kids, right? Larry loves this one. What I'm doing here is I'm taking 2 keyboard parts. I'm taking a synth part that's doing boom, 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 boom. Now, this is technically considered chord noodling, but I don't refer to this as chord noodling because There's so much more going on. It's not like a simple little nugget that I could pull out of my pocket and give you, and then you can learn it and go off. There's other things in this that are going to confuse you. So I wouldn't consider this, but technically it is, because we're taking chords like we're taking E minor. If I didn't play this the way that I'm playing it with finger picking and everything else, it would just sound like this. G, D with an F sharp, E minor, C, G, D with an F sharp, right? But I'm playing the bass line here. So here's E minor, C, G, technically a D with an F sharp in the bass, as represented by this F sharp in the bass. And then I added the melody on top of it. But the thing about it is the melody notes and the bass notes are all in the same key. It's only 7 notes that I'm playing, no other notes other than 7 notes in the key of G. So I'm just using those notes from that key, you know? And it sounds nice together because they play well together. But if I did this without, let's say I just did this will be difficult to do it without finger picking because I'm isolating. Let's see. So that's essentially what we're doing is we're taking this E minor chord. Ba 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 ba. So I'm just embellishing there, and that I would consider chord noodling because I'm just strumming and I'm changing the chord up by moving 1 or 2 fingers around, right? But that is essentially the same thing that we're doing there. And that's why all that stuff works together.
Donations.
Oh, donations, yes. Oh, wow, Clark, thank you so much. Eric, you and your crew are everything that is right with the planet. Oh, Clark, thank you. That means so much. That means so much to me, especially that you took what I said just now and you didn't take that personally, thinking that I was attacking you, because I'm not doing that. I want to lift you guys up, and the only way to do that is to be straight up honest with you and say, boom, let's get to this next level. So thank you, Clark. That is right with the planet. Love your style. Love you, man. Thanks for the suede couch bit. You're so welcome, Clark. Love it. But I do have those for you in the program as well, Clark, because those are important too. Your question's 100% valid. 100%. Everybody's question so far has been 100% valid. Now, I'm just saying, great question. Let's not address it yet until we figure out how to say please and thank you and you're welcome and where's the bathroom, because I gotta go in Mandarin. And then we can learn about this putting suede on our couch, or whatever it is, you know? Says the vegan. I shouldn't be saying that, right?
Just before that.
Oh, another one. Okay, sorry. Let's do that. Kevin? Kevin, yes. Kevin, thank you so much for that donation, buddy. So appreciate it. Beautiful. Okay, we got others here. Pearl Jam, Just Breathe is a nice example. There's tons of them, right? Stephen inhaled a little confetti. I know. It's abounding because you guys are so giving. That's why. So thank you. All right, good. Chuck, Pops, what's up, man? Thank you. I'm only 5 months into this journey, but using UGS Pro and Noodling, I've created 3 originals already. Thank you, Sage. I love hearing that, Pops. Thank you very much for letting us know, and thank you for that super kind donation. It is true that really once you're shown how to do it, you can do it. You have all the seeds of this creativity within you. But without the fertilizer and without the water and without the sun, what's a plant going to do? It's just, a seed is a possibility. That's all it is. And we all have those seeds of possibility within us, whether it's to be a great guitar player or a great speaker or a great YouTuber or a great whatever it is that we desire to do. All those seeds are in us already. And then that desire to become, like Chuck has done here, to create these originals and what have you, he cultivated those seeds, right? He got into the program, he watched the videos, he practiced. That's all that cultivation and stuff. And without that, the seeds are worthless. They'll fall on the rocks and everything else, and they just won't ever grow. Cool? Right, yes. Okay, finger picking is really good chord noodling one note at a time. It is, it's great for that. Just like, right, you know, what we did here. Doug says, Eric is full of fertilizer. I am, I had oatmeal today. Dear Lord. You know, whatever. Like, what the cool thing about finger picking is you can pick out those individual notes, but you could do it just the same with just strumming, and you may not hear the melody quite as loud. I can hear it. Matthew's saying he uses chord noodling technique to make a loop that he wants to solo over. And yeah, definitely, because what that does is it makes what you're doing more interesting. It's like a conversation. Have you ever had a conversation like this with someone where you go, "How are things?" And they go, "Good." "So what are you doing?" You know. Oh, dear Lord, right? You ever had a conversation like that with someone where you're asking the questions, but you're not getting a lot of response back? It's not very exciting. And you could think about a chord progression or a loop happening like that, where you just have something that's, yeah, it's a chord progression, but the strumming's not very exciting, the chords are not very exciting, there's no sort of anything that's inspiring you. But if you met with somebody and you're like, "So dude, how are you doing?" And they go, "Dude, you have no idea how amazing life is right now. So I started doing this, I started meditating, I got into UGS Pro, and I'm learning how to play guitar, and I've changed my diet, and everything in my life is going freaking fantastic. Sit down, I gotta tell you." You'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this is intense, but I gotta know," right? So now you were inspired by this other thing. And same thing with a good chord progression that might have some noodling in it or something. It's something interesting to inspire you. I find that when I record, I can, the hardest part is the very first thing you lay down. And then everything after that just seems to just fall out. What I mean by recording is, you know, you're sitting down and you're recording a song and you're putting all the parts down. So the bass line and the guitar parts and the other guitar parts and the other guitar parts and the keyboard parts. And it's like one thing feeds off of another thing. So it's just like getting together with a great group of minds where it was maybe just you thinking before in a vacuum, and one person says something and you go, "Yeah, and on top of that, snowballing on that, we could do this," and then somebody else, and it's energy that you're bringing together. So when you could do this in a chord progression, you're definitely going to find that your noodling and stuff like that is going to be more inspired automatically. Okay. Yeah. Denise, oh yeah, oatmeal, blueberries, and almond milk. That's like my jam. Although, I'm not doing blueberries right now because I'm supposed to have a sensitivity to it. So I'm doing this hardcore diet for the next 6 weeks. Just seeing if it works. Just seeing. Any tips on getting the thumb to reach around and grab that low E? Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it. Also, is chord noodling, hammer, pull off more for quick transitions and more arpeggiated for fingerstyle, more time? It's all acceptable, Bobby. No rules. So if you want to do pull offs, you know, know, it's a pull off. All acceptable. Okay, any tips on reaching that thumb? Yes, here's some tips. Number one, I have videos on that. Just search YourGuitarSage thumb. Whether you're in UGS Pro, I have more high-end videos there. Obviously have some on YouTube as well. Search YourGuitarSage thumb and you'll find that. But here's my trick, is I get this wrinkle or crease right there in my thumb, and that's what I use to pull the string close to me. Notice my thumb is not over the top of the neck like this. It's just literally on the top, and I can grab that and if I especially grab it with the crease of my finger, I mean, look at how far that thumb is up. It's not doing this, it's just doing that. And that takes a little getting used to, you know? But I definitely have practiced that, okay? Shivam, thank you so much. Eric, you're great. Enjoying all the live lessons. We'll join UGS Pro super soon. Beautiful. Shivam, and thank you for the donation. Super kind. PGSer, thank you. Excellent lesson, Eric. Light bulbs going on for what I can do with this. Ah, love it. And so, you know, going up further on the fretboard too, someone had asked that question. It's like, could you do that further on the fretboard? Yes, by all means. And no, you don't have to have the capo. It's just you're gonna have some different bits going on there. So like, I was working with something the other day. I was like, okay, let's take this whole idea of the seventh chords and working its way down, like the minor 7 as the sixth. So if we're in the key of G, I should be talking about this tomorrow, but since it's not tomorrow, I'll talk about it now. If I was in the key of G, then my chords would be G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F diminished, and back to G. So in that case here, if I wanted to do something, you know, in the key of E minor, then I could do an E minor 7, which I'm doing here. Then I went to the 5 chord, which is a dominant. And then the 4 chord, which is a major 7. Let's do this. Now the 3 chords is a minor 7. 2 chords are minor 7. So sometimes I'll do stuff like this just as an exercise. Just like dude with Dust in the Wind. So I'm just doing this to what this kind of stuff does is it keeps my fingers going, and it works on my theory, like thinking about chords differently. But essentially what I'm doing is chord noodling, but kind of high-end, advanced type stuff, you know? Yeah. All right, good, good, good. Vabhav, thank you. Love from India. Beautiful. And you could use just full chords, like, you know, I have a song that goes like this. It goes, and it just so happens that these notes work. I mean, those are octaves that I'm playing there, but I also have this drone note going on. So that G is playing the whole time. there's all sorts of things that you can do with this. What I want to do is I want to get you to just do the very, very, very simple stuff so that you can conceptually understand it, and you've got a nugget to go to, something that you can use. I do this all the time in the key of C, in the key of G, doesn't matter. Those are the ones that work the best or are the easiest to play in. You could do it in the key of G, E, D as well. You could do it in the sharp keys as well, but again, once you start getting into bar chords, now you're tying up fingers that could be noodling and creating little textures moving along, right? You've got 6 strings. Technically, you could have 6 voices happening all at once. Most of the time that doesn't happen, but when you're talking about classical music, it's 2 voices right there, right? So like you could do this with with many voices. You could do it with 6 of them if you wanted to. But now we're talking about something kind of really high level, and that's when we lose folks, and they don't like, I don't understand this. Well, there's no need to get complex like that. You know, later on, yes, if you want to do that, then go for that. Alan, thank you for the donation, friend. How to decide which note should be final in a progression before repeating it. Shivam, how to decide which note should be final in a progression before repeating it. It's a pretty broad stroke there. So, you know, if you're in the key of C, then C is going to be the note that resonates, that rests the best, you know. So I'd have to know, are you talking about the bass note, or are you talking about the note in the chord progression, you know, the noodling? Which ones are you talking about? And then what do you mean by final? You're talking about the last chord in the progression, the last chord in the song. So there's a few details I would need there. But Shivam, if I could tell you anything, it's don't. If I said to you, eat this sandwich, and you're like, I don't like the taste of that, and I'm like, no, you've got it all wrong. See, what's in this sandwich is cucumber and this and that and the other thing. These are all things that people like. And so theoretically, you're wrong. You should eat the cucumber sandwich or whatever. And you're like, I don't like cucumber sandwich. I don't like the way it tastes. Use that part of your brain with this music. Do you like the sound? No, I don't. That's all you need. You don't need permission or you don't need to be convinced that something sounds good if it doesn't sound good to you. So that is the note to go with, okay? If you're thinking like, well, should it be the 7 or the, you know, it's like try to get out of that mindset. Go with what it is that sounds good. The only reason we're using numbers in music theory is to analyze what we've done so that maybe we can repeat that later on, or we can show somebody how to do something, or it does help you to expand your consciousness on the fretboard. But when it comes to what's the right note or the wrong note, we're talking about music is art is subjective, and so what's going to sound good to you is not going to sound good to the next person, right? If you play, like, I love minor sounding stuff. If I play minor sounding music to my boy, he usually doesn't like it. Children don't typically like complex music at first. They like things to be very simple, very elementary, and typically they like it to be major, happy, and fun, you know? Pinball Wizard uses drone notes. It does, yes. And I've taught that one before, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I'm even going to try it. I don't even know it. I don't even remember it, but yeah. I don't even know it. What am I doing? Does it have crusts, the sandwich? Yes, it has crusts. I make my boy eat the crust. I say, dude, the crust is the best part.
Can I give you a Facebook question?
Yeah, give me a Facebook question, Mike.
Look at your program.
Okay, cool. Bonnie is saying, Eric, when you are droning a G note, are you muting the high E string with the pinky and the thumb? For what I'm doing there, Bonnie, when I was doing this, yes. So let me show you what I'm doing there. I'm thinking like I'm holding a C chord, right? I'm acting like I'm holding a C chord. But now, realistically, what I'm doing is I'm lifting my second finger up. It's up. And I'm using my third finger to mute that fourth string that was being played by the second finger. I'm using the third finger to play the fifth string, to mute the fourth string, let the G drone out, and then I play the C with my first finger, and then this first string is muted out. So I have a C, a G, and a C. And so if I move this up, and my G is droning, pretty safe, because basically I'm just playing octaves and I'm just playing up the scale, right? So, you know, it's really good to find little things like that, because that droning alone will make it something cool, because you're not used to hearing that. So you're like, well, I like that. And then just playing something, you know, without that is going to seem drab. It's going to seem boring. So you can do some really cool stuff with it. That's a great question, Bonnie. Okay, so Alice saying, Red Schultz said that noodling without purpose will not make you a better player. He specifically said that noodling the same thing will not make you better. He did not specify chord noodling. No. What Rhett is saying there, he's talking about in general. As guitar players, we say, okay, noodling. And what he means by that is, I would reckon, I don't know, I didn't hear him say it, but what he is probably saying is this, and I concur, I agree, is that if you're just like have a chord progression going and you're just mindlessly noodling, you still, just because you are looking to become a better player, you're going to find out what notes become better, or what notes sound better over what chords. So naturally, that is going to be something that is going to occur. But what he's probably, I'm guessing what he's probably saying there is that if you don't like, if you're not trying to say something, it would be like, I don't know, being at a party and the only thing you're trying to do is talk a bunch of words, and you're just like trying to outword somebody, and you're just going on and on. You won't shut up, and you don't really, not making a point, but you just use a lot of words and you just won't shut up, and you keep going and going, as opposed to someone who's going to speak eloquently and say, make their point, get the hell out of Dodge, that sort of thing. Like, say something, get out. Don't over noodle, if you will. Or at least that's how I'm hearing that. Should we count and or metronome while practice this, or should we just feel it and play? No, don't play with the metronome right now on this. You can later on, but again, if you're just trying to learn how to juggle, if you're trying to put something on you that's keeping you in this real rigid thing on how to juggle, and you can't even juggle yet, you might as well just juggle the wrong way first, or just juggle. And then later on, maybe someone can fix something, but try to isolate this stuff. The more you guys think about isolating and just getting that one little widget down and then adding it to what you do, it's going to make life so much easier. A lot easier. So Alan, thank you so much for the donation. And Marine Mama 62, thank you so much for always coming through. John, thank you for the donation. In your UGS Pro exercise in chordal scales, G major, you show F diminished. How would you use that bar chord? How would that chord differ from, which is also F diminished, find the second easier, not a bar? Okay, I'll talk about that in just 1 second, John. And Merle, thank you for the donation. So in UGS Pro, in your chordal exercises, the G major, you show F diminished, which is E2, A3, D4, and G2, and then, right, yeah. How would that chord differ from E, A, so we have D1, A2, oh, hold on here, I'm thinking you mean G2, B1, E2, yeah. How would it differ? So, it's the same chord. It would differ like this, John. This is a G chord. This is a G chord. This is a G chord, a G chord, a G chord, G, G, and so on, right? So this is how it would differ. It's a different voicing. It's technically the same math. It's the same ingredients, but just like if grandma cooks chili, your mama cooks chili, and the fireman down the road cooks chili, it's all chili. It has the things that are in it that we call, that make it chili, right? There's no strawberries. There's onions. There's beans. There's hot sauce. There's no yogurt. So there are ingredients that are left out of a chili recipe, and there's things that go into a chili recipe that make it chili, but it's made by 3 different people. It's going to taste 3 different ways, and you can think about your G chord as being that. It's like it's still a G chord, and in this case here, it's still an F diminished chord, but it's just a different voicing. We're using different notes in different places, but the math is the same. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay. Sounds like he's saying practice with a purpose. Indeed, and we always should. Mel Bray is saying, how do I contribute? Thank you, Mel. There's a few different ways. Emmy will put we've got a PayPal link that you can do. That's preferred, but it's okay if not. We also have the super chat, which is great too. The bottom left there is a smiley face, and right next to the smiley face, you'll see a US dollar symbol. It looks like a little square, and if you click that, that will allow you to donate. Thank you so much, Mel, for asking. Really appreciate that. Willie. Here comes the bear on his unicycle, juggling 4 bowling pins at the same time as he settles onto the suede couch to enjoy Shark Week, which should probably scare the poop out of him. It's true. It's all true. Somebody who's just watching this for the first time is like, what? Just stick around. That story will make sense to you in a short while. I'm learning Jolene. Can you recommend the best finger-picking pattern? So, yeah, I forgot where this was played. What's it? Something like that, right? So, I wish I knew this one better, and then I could help you with it, because one of my favorite songs ever. But you're saying learning, Jolene, can you recommend the best finger pattern? So I can't, James. I shouldn't even have read that question in the first place. I'm sorry, but I wanted to because it's a question I want to address you. But I don't know that song well enough. What is it? I think that's it. Something like that, right? I would suggest going to ultimate-guitar.com, finding the best, the most highly rated tab for that, and then I would slow it way down. Maybe watch a guitar tutorial on that one. That would be my suggestion to you. It's a tricky one. I'll be quite honest with you. It's tricky. Okay, Monkish is saying, completed the free UGS lessons in 3 weeks. What free 30 lessons are you talking about? The free lessons that we give you every day, friends. It's in UGS Standard. YourGuitarSage.com/UGS is where you can find those. Or get into Pro, okay? But that's what Monkesh is talking about right here. Should I go for your finger picking lessons now? Do you like finger picking? I'd say if so, yes. But I mean, you can get into UGS Pro for 19 bucks. Actually, you can get in for $1. You can try it all out for 30 days. Just get out before the 30th day, and you won't even get charged anything more. It's like test driving a Tesla for a month. So that's what I would suggest you, Monkesh. If you're really asking me, I'd say get into UGS Pro. You saw the folks there earlier who are in UGS Pro. They will actually help you when you're in there, as well as me, answer questions, encouragement, guide you, point you in the right direction. We've got the best community out of anybody out there. I truly believe. And so I would suggest you getting in UGS Pro unless the only thing you care about is finger picking. And in that case, yes, you could just get into finger picking. I have just that alone. Yeah. Okay. Gary C., were you talking about Tracy Chapman's new car sounded like a drone? Why? Okay, so you're talking about Fast Car, right? Ba-da-da-da-da. Yeah, and I forgot that one. I've learned it. I think I might have taught it. But there's a drone in that one. Yep. Yep, there is a drone in that. And that just means that there's a note that's played throughout it. And when you have that sort of thing, it's a little thread that ties something through. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, I think most of you know what I'm talking about there, but if, let's say, you talk to somebody today and they say, lots of stuff happening in the world today, the universe is changing. And then somebody else says, change is on the way, whatever, and then somebody else says that, and you're like, what is going on? Like, a lot of people are saying that the world's changing and that we're going someplace great. And you hear that enough times, that's a little thread going through. And maybe one guy says it differently and then somebody says it over here, but it's something that a lot of people are saying. It's going to stick with you a lot more than if you just hear it one time. And same thing that happens with music. Whether you know that you're doing this or not, the way you're listening is you're craving those little patterns and what have you. And that's the reason that we all oftentimes agree on, well, this is a classic song. This is just classic Layla or whatever. There's always a few people who aren't going to like those things, but there's a reason that hit songs are hit songs is because most people, or the majority of the people, will agree that something is good and worth listening to, and that's why it rises up the charts. That and payola. But we won't talk about that because that doesn't happen anymore. One thing is to complete the lessons. Another thing is to master the content and technique. The question, are you proficient with the lesson's content? Yeah, that's a great question. 100%, it's like it takes a while to get a concept. Sometimes you might get the concept very, very quickly, but then to get it and build it into your being as to who you are, it's a whole other thing. If someone said, hey, you can lose weight by not eating as much sugar and working out more, you probably wouldn't go, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But you may know that that's 100% true, but because you haven't integrated it into your system, into your life, then you're not going to benefit from it. So, right? Doesn't that make sense? Sure. We are live, Keith. Very, very live. Oh, thank you so much, John. Beautiful. Thank you, bud. Oh, thank you, Indie Dead. I enjoy the YouTube fire hose of guitar enlightenment as much as anyone. When you're trying to get a conceptual understanding, it is so much easier to have structure. Eric does that well. Thank you, Indy. Psycho Dad saying, do you get more of the donation through PayPal? Yes. Yes, we do. Google takes 30% of that chat. I'm thankful that they have it there, but it's kind of a big amount. This is the baby you're probably hearing. It's under my chair. Okay. Oh, I don't know anything about that. Oh, I know what you're talking about, Andy. Yeah, the new joint shifting technique of Steve Vai in his new song. I saw what he was doing. You're talking about with the bends and stuff, right? So you might think that he's doing some sort of double jointed thing or whatever, but I don't even think of the calisthenics part of that. It's just literally he's bending notes in a very unorthodox way than what we're used to, and it's very cool. Perfect example of somebody taking an exercise and then turning it into a song, you know. Argya is saying, I want to compose my own music. How much music theory should I learn, or where should I start? Great question. Start in UGS standard, because you're going to understand the basic structure of music via the major scale. Unfortunately, most music teachers don't ever broach this subject. And so what you do is you have a kid who can play an instrument by looking at a piece of sheet music. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. I love that. And they have all the technique down, and they can read a piece of sheet music. And then if you take that sheet music away, they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't think that's a very good way to teach music. How cool would it be to teach the reading later, but to make it to where they have a basic conceptual understanding of the instrument, so that they never have to have a guitar teacher or another teacher again unless they want to grow in a specific area, and they literally can create with that instrument. And that is the way that I teach guitar. I teach it from like, this is diatonic harmony. That harmony, which is based off of the major scale, which is 99.9% of all music that you've heard, are hearing now, or ever will hear. So why not focus on that energy instead of the 0.0001% of the time where you're not going to use that? I've never, in over 35 years of playing, not used the major scale in some capacity. Everything that I've ever played has been based off of that, whether it was a minor sounding major, minor, whatever, doesn't matter. It's all based off of that. So learn it that way, and then you'll understand the structure, the family of chords. So when we're talking about a particular key, it's major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. If you're, you can do this with minor keys as well, all of it. That's where to start, my friend. It will totally help you. I promise you. In fact, if you've been in UGS standard, the top 30, it's actually more than 30, right? And we've stuffed a few other ones in there now. If you've massively benefited from 30, now if you've only benefited a little bit from it, don't write it, but if you've massively benefited from 30, please let our friend know here to get in there. Just put 30 on the screen here, and that will let him know that we're legit here. And there's a ton of us who started in there, okay? That's where you want to be. Thank you, Climber. So kind. Yes. And Opal, you can do lessons. I'm giving this course to you for free. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to pay anything. And then once you exhaust those 30-something lessons, then I have another 1,300 lessons waiting for you here on YouTube. You don't ever have to buy anything from me. Now, if you want the whole step-by-step method and the big courses and stuff, then yes, get into UGS Pro. But if you don't have the money, I have lots of stuff for you for free. Tons. All right. Opal's our Earth. Hey, I'm new to guitar and I have no idea what to do. Acoustic, any tips? Total beginner. Opal. Get in UGS standard. You saw the link on the screen there, and the link is below, YourGuitarSage.com/UGS. That's how to get in there. 100% free for you, my friend. Thank you for those that are letting us know here. What do I think of Vito Brato of White Lion? That guy is an amazing guitar player. I mean, I would watch him as a kid, and he was technically just so advanced and just a really clean player. So yeah, he's I haven't kept up with him, so I don't know what he's doing these days, but yeah, he was doing some amazing stuff back then. Oh, beautiful. Tons of folks from that are in UGS standard. Beautiful. Mark Davis, I feel like I'm in a rut. Does this sound like anybody? I feel like I'm in a rut. I'm not getting better. I'm just practicing the same thing over and over again. There's your answer. Any advice? Yes, Mark, don't practice the same thing over and over again. But what do you mean? Well, what will I practice? Well, you don't worry about what not to practice. Right now, don't practice the same thing over and over again. right? If you're an alcoholic, you want to stop drinking, the very first thing you do is you don't grab the drink. What are you going to replace it with? That's a really important question. It follows directly afterwards, because if you don't fill that void with something, then you'll probably grab the drink again. And that's with anything. If you're used to, eating certain foods, get them out of your house. If you're used to practicing a certain way, don't do that thing anymore. Allow there to be a void, okay? Allow there to be a void that makes you go, well, I'm not going to do that, but now what? Because that void is where all the magic happens. That's outside of your comfort zone. You've heard the expression 100 times before. It's absolutely 100% true. Otherwise, Mark, you'd be super satisfied by playing the same licks over and over again. That is your comfort zone. So you got to get outside of your comfort zone. That's where all the action happens. It's where the killer stuff happens. So what I would suggest is, because I know you don't want to go too high end, right? You don't want to get too freaked out, nothing that's going to challenge you so much that it makes you quit, which is the whole point of learning things systematically. So what I suggest you do is find out what the next level is by just finding a song that you dig. Find a song that you love to play, learn that song, and then learn another song, and then learn another song. Because songs, you immediately have a carrot. You're like, dude, I've got to learn how to play Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan. You know what your goal is. You know what it'll sound like when you get there. And even if you don't get there exactly like Stevie played, it's a super fun journey, and you have a carrot. Now, you may get bored of the song before you master it, and that has happened to me before, and it's okay. The whole point is that you're playing and that you're having fun while you're playing. If you can not think of this as a destination, but think of it as a journey, then, which, by the way, is just like life. Because the destination, we know where the destination is, 6 feet under, right? If that's our goal, and we're trying to rush to the finish line, well, then you might be disappointed. I don't know. I believe there's something greater beyond that, but you get what I'm saying. Don't worry about the end. Worry about the now, because that's all you can affect right now. So be in the moment. Find a good song that you love. Saturate yourself with it. Have fun with it, and then find the next thing, okay? All right. Listen first. Easier to learn. Yeah, exactly. Listen first. Oh, Steve, thanks for the donation, brother, from Hatboro, PA. Thank you. Thank you. That's so kind. My wife is from PA. She's from Philadelphia. Who else is from PA? Ford Thurston? Corey Congilio. Lots of good musicians out of PA. Billy Joel? Was he from there, or was he from Jersey? I don't know. Somewhere in that area, though, nonetheless. Ah, thank you, Street Bright. Beautiful. Oh, thank you, Shivam. Steve Krenz also helped you on the guitar. Actually, Steve just texted me the other day. He was asking about our live program and something we were doing on it. So I've met Steve. He's a great guy. Learn songs. Yeah. Dumb question, where's the PayPal icon? We just put that on the screen, but I think you wrote that after we did, or before we did that. Yeah, there you go. Emmy just posted that. Look out for Emmy's post there, and you will see it. It's in blue. Mel, thank you. All right. Yeah, if you see any other questions on any other platforms, Mike, I'm scrolling through YouTube, but if we have any others, then just let me know. Oh, he's from Long Island. Okay. I'm originally from Central Florida. Cocoa Beach, Merritt Island. I was born in Titusville, where they launched the rockets. So, like, that literally is where they build them and where they launch them. It's little old Titusville, and that's where I was born, at Jess Parish Hospital. Yes, PA is Pennsylvania. Jack, you're right. It's all about practice, practice, practice. You have to do it. You could have all the knowledge in the world, and if you're not practicing it, it doesn't matter. It won't do what you need it to do. Taylor Swift is also from PA. Yeah, a buddy of mine went to school with her and is friends with her. One of my students, and he would chit chat with her all the time, just till a few years ago. But I don't think she claims it anymore. Now she claims Nashville is her home. But yeah, she was born in PA. Yeah, good stuff. All right, other questions that you guys might have. And friends, we may go, I don't know, did I tell everybody we'd be going 2 hours today? I think I did. So I tell you what, I think what we'll do is we're gonna do 2 hours this week because I promised you guys, but I think we're gonna probably start going at least, at the most, an hour and a half from now on. Maybe an hour, I don't know, but we're planning on doing it twice a week, Mondays and Tuesdays. And so but today we'll do 2 hours because I promised you guys. So let me know what questions you guys have on all this stuff. Do you have good practice methods? D-Buster is saying. Oh, I would say that I do. I have focused practice methods. But if you're saying, do I sit down for several hours and have everything regimented out? No, I do not. I used to do that. And most players that I know who are really good did do something like that at some point. But when you start having kids and a family and a mortgage and bills and a business and people to manage and all the rest, your 8 hours of practice aren't 8 hours anymore, and it becomes much less than that. So there's so many hours in the day. So now what I do is I focus specifically on something that I'm going to be teaching or a video that I'm going to be doing or something like that. I specifically practice that. So this morning, when I sat down here for a few minutes beforehand, I was just thinking of different ways that I use chord noodling, and I just kind of ran through them before the broadcast started. However, if you really want to be good, having a very regimented practice can be helpful because it can keep you pointed on your weaknesses. If you know that you're not good at improvisation and you know that that's a crucial bit to what it is that you want to do, maybe you want to be a studio guitar player and you're not good at improvisation because you're going to need to come up with solos on the spot, then that would be something that you would want to put into your regimen. But Eric, I'm not good at it. Well, that's the whole point, right? We practice the things that we're not good at so that we can become good at them. So that would be my suggestion to you, is at least put the things in there that you want to get better at. But you got to answer that why first. Why is it that you want to play? If you don't ever want to play anything past the 3rd fret, then learning the cage system is kind of mindless, because if you're not planning on playing anything other than cowboy chords by a campfire, then learning the cage system isn't really going to help you. So why waste the energy? I'm a big fan of not wasting energy, mind energy, physical energy, spiritual energy, like whatever. I'm a big fan of being a guard of all those things, because there are people that will use those, that will take advantage of your energy, and there's no need to do that. So same thing when you're learning, okay? Him, thank you so much for the donation. I practice a song, and I can't get it, and then forget it the next day. Suggestions. It only means you haven't done it enough, okay? I've learned thousands of songs, and I've forgotten thousands of songs because I just don't practice them anymore. I have inklings of them, and if I were to look at the tab again or watch one of my lessons, I've done that so many times. I've watched my own lesson, and I'm like, how did I do that again? Oh yeah, okay. So because you forget, if you, whatever you don't use it, you lose it, right? Use it or lose it. So it's that. So that's my suggestion. I know you're looking for a different suggestion, but it's that you just need to practice those things more. It's repetition, okay? There's other things that can help too. So for instance, if you start thinking in the number system, and if you know that a particular chord progression is, say, like a 1 minor 6 4 5, and you're like, in your mind you're like 6, 1, 4, 5, so 61, 45, and you just think that in your head, then you're like, okay, this is in the key of what? Oh, it's in the key of G. 6, 1, 4, 5. Okay, so 6 or 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6, 4, 5. So little things like that. If you don't know the number system, then obviously that's not going to help you, but that would be a little trick that you could use. I try to use association all the time for remembering things, but when you're talking about chords to songs, thousands of songs that have the same exact chords, what makes them different, right? There's not much that's going to make them different. So you need to use association as much as you can, and then just sheer repetition works too, but that can take a little longer, you know. Is there any difference in pitch of a bar chord and an open chord? Yes, Jaz. This is what we're talking about is voicings. So G chord, right? G chord. Can you hear a difference between those two? Right? Chili. They're all chilies, but they're made by different people, so they're going to taste a little different. So each one of those chords has, maybe has a couple more G's in it, or has a higher G in it and a lower B in it, that sort of thing. So those are called voicings. Each one of those notes is a voice. And so the voicings are going to be different. So yes, they will sound different for sure. And Bryant said, if the guitar is intonated and tuned correctly, the pitch will be the same. The timbre will be different. Kind of. The timbre will be different as per the strings that you're playing, but you know the timbre should be fairly the same on a specific instrument. And what we mean by timbre is the sound of an instrument. So the sound of an acoustic guitar playing in the E, this acoustic guitar is going to sound differently than if I played E on a Martin guitar or an E on a cello. You know, this low E here, okay? It might sound different. So the intonation will be similar, but Bryant playing them on different strings technically will change the timbre, right? So if I go, if I play this sound, those all sound different. So those all sound differently, timbre as well, but the voicings will for sure be different. Okay, does down tuning either half change the noodling pattern like Leonard Skinner's Simple Man, C, G, A minor, because it would be a C flat tonal center? Okay, no, it doesn't. So I was asked this morning in one of my courses, and someone was saying, well, when you're talking about the construction of the major scale, whole, half, whole, half, wouldn't it be different when the B and the E and the no flat or no sharp and all that? And I'm saying no, because a name is a name. And so I'll answer by Eric, I'll answer by Andreas, I'll answer by YourGuitarSage, whatever. I'll answer by, it's just a name, right? And so a B could be anything. It could be named anything. So try not to be so concerned with that. It's good to know the tonal center, but after that, it has everything to do with the distance from one pitch to the next. So a whole step is a whole step, and it doesn't matter the key. If I'm playing a whole step from A to B, it's the same distance. It's 2 frets. If I play it from B flat to C, it's still 2 frets. If I play it from B to C sharp, it's still 2 frets. You know what I mean? So in the same way, if you tune the guitar down a half step, as long as each string is tuned relative to the other, so as long as you can go here and hit what looks like a C chord and it sounds like a C chord, but maybe a C flat chord, then it's the same. Let's think about it in another concept. Let's put the capo on. Does that change the fact that I can... Nope, it doesn't. It doesn't change it any time. Because the notes are the relative distance. Their relative distance is the same. Okay? Oh, Gary, thank you, bud. Donated on PayPal, but it never showed up along the message. Well, Gary, thank you so much for the donation. No, that's the thing about the PayPal donations. They don't show up there. The only thing that shows up there is the super chat. So for folks that, you know, that are doing super chat, it will appear there. But Gary, I will get an email later on. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that, buddy. And I'm sorry, it doesn't show up on there. It's just, that's not our system. It is a YouTube system. Climber 7565, thank you for the donation. And then Brian just came in with one. Thank you so much. What books do you recommend for inspiration and to learn music theory? So I have a book, and it's called Guitar Mastery Simplified. I don't look at it very often, which might be on our shelf someplace. Yeah, sure it is. Or one of them is. Yeah, it's called Guitar Mastery Simplified. You can find that on Amazon. I also have one for ukulele. That's what I would say for learning music theory. But better than that, Simcha, and I would make money on that, but better than that is something I won't make money on, which is the free course that I'm giving you today, which is UGS Standard. Because there you have the PDFs that I give you. You've got videos. It's step by step. You cannot mess up. Okay, that's what I suggest for you as far as for learning music theory. As far as inspiration, and if I were to just suggest one book for everybody and anybody who's watching right now, it's called Awaken the Giant Within. Is that right? Awaken the Giant Within. I think that's it. It's Tony Robbins. It was the first book that I read by him, and he wrote that, I don't know, in the 80s or 90s, and it is absolutely very simple, and it's the baseline of everything, of just like understanding your potential and then tapping into that potential. It pains my heart that there are people that don't realize how much potential that they have in them, and they're looking for something to come and visit them, to like a genie, to just deliver it, but it doesn't work. You've got to conjure the genie from within. He doesn't visit like the movies. You make the genie. But that's a great book, Awaken the Giant Within. What is the main purpose of a capo, Albert? So the main purpose of a capo is to allow you to play open chords further up the neck. Why would we do this? Because if we're in the studio and someone wants to change the key, we can easily put the capo down and we can change the key. And if we know a little bit about basic music theory, as I teach you in UGS Standard, then you can move that capo back and forth, and now you're not having to play a bunch of bar chords. And if you're wanting to do some cool, noodling type bits, you won't be confined to those bar chords. You'll be able to use the open chords, and bingo, bango, Django. Now you're rocking. So another thing you can do with it too is just to change the voicings of the guitar. So for instance, if I do like this 1 minor 6 4 5. So I could do that, and then I could do this. Just hold on. Hang in there with me. So I'm using some bar chords there now, but nonetheless, we could do that. So I just played that, I don't know how many different ways, 1, 2, 3, at least 4 different ways, just by moving my capo up and down the fretboard. You can do this with any key, major, minor, doesn't matter. And you can play it like in at least 4 different places on the fretboard, 5, using that caged idea. And so that allows you to do different things. So if I'm going in the studio and I want to sound like a full band, then I want to think like different guitar players. If you've ever heard, many artists do this, when they go into the studio, they sing backgrounds to their own stuff. So you'll hear Sting singing the main lead, and then you'll hear him singing all the background stuff too. Nothing wrong with that, super cool actually, because you can harmonize with yourself very well because of the timbre of the instrument, the voice. But what I will do a lot of times in this studio, whether I'm singing or I'm playing guitars, I will purposefully try to think like another guitar player. One guitar player I'll think of as playing very on top of the beat, and then the next guy, my next character, might be someone who's playing a little bit behind the beat, just slightly, just to thicken it up, and might be playing with a different personality, a different aggression, or holding back, or maybe finger picking, or playing at a different part of the neck. And what that does is it thickens up the sound, so it doesn't sound like the same guitar player playing all the same parts. It sounds like other guitar players. It sounds like a band now with different ideas, diversity, right? So we can use that capo for that sort of idea too. So like if I'm laying down a guitar part, I might, if I'm doing acoustics, I might do one in the open position, then capo it further up the neck so I have those higher voices. So now it sounds like it just fills in another part of the musical spectrum and makes it sound nice and big. Thank you, Rick. Yeah, I love this guitar. Hi from Scotland. I'm a newbie and hope this isn't a daft question. When you play, for an example, a G major, to get the same sound further up the neck, I am playing the same notes? If I understand it's not a daft question at all. If I understand your question correctly, Benito, the answer is yes. So for instance, a G chord is a G, B, D. And any assortment of G's, B's, and D's, like we talked about at chili. Let's say chili has tomatoes, beans, and peppers in it. Let's say those 3 things makes chili. Okay, well, then any combination of that could be considered chili. But we don't want there to be 6 G's in here, or we couldn't do that, but we wouldn't want there to be, say, like 4 G's and 1 B and 1 E. I mean, we could do that, that's fine, but like the whole point is to have a mix of all these different notes, right? But every time that I play these different forms of the chords, I'm playing G's, B's, and D's, and that's all. Okay, and I'm not thinking GPD, I'm not thinking that. I have these chords down, I have them memorized, and I know using the caged system, which I teach inside of UGS, and on YouTube, just search YourGuitarSage Cage, I know where to grab these chords off the top of my head, but because I know the theory behind why it is that this works, then I know these are 1s, 3s, and 5s from the major scale, G major to be specific, and I also know that 1s, 3s, and 5s in the G major scale is a G, a B, and a D. So I know that that is true for all these chords, that yes, I'm just playing the same 3 notes in various ways further up the fretboard. Yeah, great question. Not daft, it's a very smart question actually. How to play a good sounding solo, Nelson's saying. Nelson, so just like someone learning to speak, no one sounds intelligent at first. We're tripping over our own words. It's cool because we're babies and little people, and we can mess stuff up and no one's going to make fun of us, at least for a little while. So that's pretty cool. But when it comes to playing, we assume that maybe there's a couple little things that if we just knew that, then all of a sudden we would start sounding good and we'd have good solos. But alas, that's not true. What happens is you learn a scale, you learn to associate a scale with a particular chord, chord structure or chord progression, because we're in a specific key, that scale's in a specific key, that chord progression's in a specific key. And those, because the chords and the scales, they're made up of the same elements, right? The beans and the onions and the peppers and the tomatoes or whatever. That's like, because when we put those things together, that's why they should sound pretty close or pretty good together. But if they're just randomly thrown in, like if I created a chili for you and I didn't put any spice in it or no love, and I put 5 cans of beans in it and 1 tiny cherry tomato and 1 jalapeno pepper, it's like technically that's chili. It has all those 3 ingredients in it, but there's not much love there. There's not much thought. So now we got, technically it's chili, but it's going to be a really, really, really beany chili. Make sense? So, so you have the scales, you have the chords, you've got the ingredients, but the reason that they're not coming together is you haven't learned to work with them yet. You haven't learned to phrase. A child learns to phrase by mimicking their parents, okay? They'd learn that if you handed a child a dictionary and an encyclopedia to have all the necessary syllables and how to pronounce it and all the definitions, it's not going to help them because they don't, number one, they don't know how to read, and number two, they need to know context. And that would be very difficult for a child who doesn't understand what the world is about to understand context. They hadn't even been outside the house. Think about the same way as you being that child. You've got the scale, you've got the chords, but you haven't learned how to phrase yet. So how do you fix that? Get a little bit of knowledge as I'm teaching you in the system, then follow another guitar player, follow me, do some call and response with all the videos that I've created where I teach you how to phrase. I play something, then you'll do whatever. You'll copy what I do, just like a child would mimic his parent or her parent, and then those phrases start sounding good, and you'll be like, I like that, and you'll remember those more, and you won't remember the ones that didn't sound so good. You might remember, don't go to that note, and now, Nelson, now you're developing good sounding solos because you're phrasing correctly. A solo is a series of motifs, phrases, musical ideas stuck into one thing, just like a song is a series of chords, a series of melodies, a series of ideas, but well thought out so that it all comes together, right? Yes, the answer is yes to that. Okay, do guitar teachers disagree about theory, or is everybody on the same page? That's a great question, Albert. For 99% of music theory, I would say we all agree. And it's probably 100% if we're really being honest, like theory is theory. So the music scale, the major scale, no one's gonna argue that the major scale is whole step, half, whole, half. Unless all of us have been getting it wrong this entire time, and then one guy comes out and says, actually, it's whole, half, whole. But with the exception of that, we've all got it right, and we all agree on those things. Intervals, we all agree on. So it's really just math is what we're talking about. So it'd be like, do mathematicians disagree? No, they don't. I don't think so. Maybe high-level stuff that's not quite quantifiable, but if it's quantifiable, which music theory is, then we can go, no, here it is. 2 + 2 = 4. It's obvious. That's a great question, though. But if someone doesn't know what music theory is, then, and one guy doesn't agree with somebody else, and they might assume that that's music theory, then there might be a disagreement, but we're not talking about music theory then, because that's fairly quantifiable. What would you use for a lead structure in D minor, over D minor, C, B flat, getting out of box 1? So that's so let's do this. Let's get the telly. Mike loves when I switch guitars. Don't you, Mike?
Sure, and if you wait a second, I'll even turn it on for you.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I'm throwing him a curveball here, and I'm going to come back to that question in just 1 second. Rick, thank you so much. Love these live lessons. I get much out of them. New thoughts and ways of doing things in different ways. Beautiful. Great. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Eric and company. Rick, thank you for the donation. Super kind. Rick is a legend. It's true. Okay, so for instance, so you said D minor, C, and G. So let's do this. Let's just go. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so, we're talking D minor. So here's a D. And if we were playing the D minor pentatonic scale, form 1, and the question was, what would you use for lead structure? What I would do is I would understand that I could use a couple different forms. I like to use this form a lot, right? This box 1. I always almost throw in the blue note, so I'm going to play minor blues, D minor blues. So I have a few different structures. Then I have this version. So a couple different forms there. So I might start off here, or I could use this form here. You don't have to get complicated with it. Just get very simple with it. And in fact, don't do nearly as much as I did there. If you want to get good with that sort of stuff, watch my video on YouTube, Minimalistic Blues. Even if you don't like the blues, what it does is it teaches you to break things down into very small phrases, because technically we don't need to do much. In fact, if I took that same bit there and I just did another favorite form of mine is form 2. So if I could literally just take this one little section here, create a ton of stuff from it. Some people call it the Albert King box, but if I went like. And then I could slide it down to someplace else and noodle around. It's just like you have different territories, different places on the neck, and it's got different gems in it. So I think about it like that. It's kind of like, I don't know, if you went to a tropical island, like one little area is going to have coconuts, and then someplace else might be a great place to snorkel or whatever. And so in the same way on the instrument, maybe this is the same island, but you've got different places on that island that you might want to go and extrapolate different things, different experiences, or different notes, That's what I would do. Pentatonic is just a great, it's just a great, easy thing to do. And it's not, don't fall into the trap of thinking that easy is bad, because all the greats are doing the easy stuff. The people who you haven't heard of are the people that are doing the really, really complex things. So if you would like to really, really, really work hard, extra hard, and not be known, then do that. than make things complicated. Otherwise, keep things simple. I mean, you literally could go down the list of all the extremely simple players that made a mark on the world. Robert Johnson and B.B. King and all the Kings, and you know what I mean? It's like they weren't playing things very, very complex. They just weren't. And, you know, similarly, if someone's talking, if they're using a bunch of lofty words and they're losing people and they're getting really, really complicated, is that, if you give a speech like that or you have a lesson like that where you just lose everybody, like, were you effective? Like, maybe to the person who's speaking, they're so puffed up with ego, they're going to be like, oh, man, I really did well there. They could hardly hang on. But if the point is to teach people, then that's not very good. So same thing with a speech or anything else. Like, you want to reach the people, so you want to speak simply. Why not? Why wouldn't you? I do miss Key West, Indy. Did you notice that? I kind of slipped that in there. Why do happy chords feel happy? It's a fantastic question. And I could not scientifically explain that to you, but I can tell you that it does have to do with vibration. And for the same reason that this, played all day long at a very loud volume, is going to make you anxious. Why is that? Well, I can tell you that those notes are very, very close to each other, but they're not directly on each other. So because they're close but not, there's what's called dissonance. And it's where you have two vibrations that they don't sound good together. And of course that's subjective, but I think we can all agree that that one's not the prettiest sounding one. This one sounds a little better. And so on and so forth as we get further away from that note. Okay? Thanks, Brad. This is a R.G. Ellis. This is made by Greg Ellis. He is my guitar tech, and I just purchased this one from him. It's a really nice telly. I love minor chords too. It's true. I do. Need more call and response. It's a blast. Yes. Lots of that, friends, on YouTube. If you search YourGuitarSage call and response, you're going to find a ton of that sort of thing on there. By the way, friends, all the stuff that we did today, if you're just joining us, all the stuff that we talked about today is chord noodling. The stuff we're going to talk about tomorrow is chord noodling, except we're going to be addressing it from the key of G major. We did C today. Tomorrow we're going to do G. And with the Capo, you could do C or G all up and down the neck, you're set. But I also give you the keys of A, E, and D as well. It's in the PDF that you can find below. There's no sign up or anything. You just click it and then you're able to download it right away. So we're not having you sign up for anything. If you want to sign up for something, you can sign up for the free course that I'm giving you. We don't require a credit card or anything like that for UGS standards. So just get in there, have fun, take advantage of it. If I never see you again, I'm sad, single tear. But if that's the case and I just help you out and I never see you again, then that's awesome. It really makes me happy if I can help you, even if I never see you again. I'd prefer us to be friends. I'd love for you to get in the system. Be fantastic. But if not, single tear, I love you. Stephen, thank you so much for the fist bump and the donation. So kind, bud. Could you suggest a practice routine for one chord soloing over a random chord progression so that I can mix it with pentatonic soloing? So Andy, would you suggest a practice routine for chord tone soloing over a random chord progression so that I can mix it with the pentatonic soloing? What I would suggest, Andy, let's cut out a bunch of that. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to focus on one chord vamps. There's no need to mix it up with multiple chords. You're going to drive yourself nuts at first. Master one chord. Master all the major chords, master all the minor chords. That's 24 things that you need to do before mixing it with other chords, okay? So this is what I want you to do, is I want you to take a chord progression like G. Now, I can take this and I can just use my pentatonic scale. take our pentatonics now and rest on the chord tone. So I would think of this as my chord. So if I was phrasing over it, those notes where my hand is at right now are my chord tones. Or if I'm playing this E chord, this G, it's an E form of the G chord. Or if I'm playing this form. So I have a whole system on this inside of UGS Pro. It's called soloing with the cage system. And so it shows you, okay, if you're playing a G, then here are your different forms that you would use. Here are the chord tones. So rest on those, but noodle around with the other notes, rest on those chord tones, and you're gonna get exactly what you're looking for. So that's what I would suggest right there, okay? Friends, thank you so much. This has been great today. We're going to go again 2 more hours tomorrow because I promised you that. But I think we're probably going to start, I think we're going to parse it down to an hour and a half. I still want to meet with you twice a week, but I think we're going to parse it down to 1.5 hours starting next week. Guys, remind me about that so I don't tell everybody we're doing 2 hours, because I want to be nice to the point, get you guys the lesson, get you out, get you working on the stuff, okay? Thank you so much for the donations today. Do not forget the PDF is right below this video right now. You need to have this so that you can do chord noodling. Otherwise, these 2 hours have been for naught and you won't be able to move forward, okay? Watch this video again if you need it. Download that PDF right now. It's free. If you have not already, friends, get in UGS Standard. It's free for you. YourGuitarSage.com/UGS. It will absolutely help with all this stuff. It's building a solid foundation so that everything that I'm saying, you will have something to attach it to and your mind isn't going to be lost, and then we can build up from there, okay? But I can't help you if you don't have that foundation, okay? I know. You don't want to do it, but you got to do it. And once you get in there, I promise you, it's going to be bonkers. You're going to be able to riff with us and talk with us and get through all this stuff a lot easier. Cool? All right, my friends. Tomorrow we're going to do the key of G. Love you guys. Thank you for the kind donations. Thank you for the likes. If you haven't liked this, please go ahead and like it right now. If you haven't done so, share it up to the interwebs with the kids. Subscribe, notification bell. All right? See ya.